Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our briefing session for August the 20th, 2019, Duncanville City Council. And if you've all set your thermostats at 80, you're comfortable. Right? No. Such as Dallas weather, it's okay. Well, thank you much for coming tonight. Mr. McBurnett is stuck in some traffic. He is on his way, so we will have full council as soon as he gets here. But we do have a quorum, and we are ready to proceed. First thing on the agenda, Mr. Goodman, do you want to run through things?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'll go through the consent agenda. Tonight on your consent agenda, item 4A are the minutes for the July 29th to 30th council special meeting. Item 4B is a resolution approving a one-year renewal agreement for employee and retiree medical and prescription benefits with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. As you recall, last year we said we went from being self-insured to a fully insured plan under Blue Cross Blue Shield. This year we've had good claims history, and Blue Cross Blue Shield is giving us a rate pass, which means no rate increase, which is rather unusual in the industry when you're in fully insured plans. But that has been because we've had good claims history this year. So there are no changes to the cost to the city. We are making some premium changes internally in our different tiers, lowering the city's contribution somewhat overall. But as far as the contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield, it will stay the same, so we recommend approval of that. Item 4C is a resolution of awarding a contract or renewal of and authorizing a 5-year fixed rental master agreement for copiers citywide with Ubio Business Services. So this is an annual amount of estimated of $61,608 or $308,000 over the 5-year contract. We previously were in an agreement with Documation of North Texas. They are now known as Ubio, so this is the same company. Our current agreement was approved in 2015, so it had another year, but we can terminate it with no penalty and start a new contract. And by doing so, we can take advantage of new technology and the latest in copier devices. We are making some enhancements in our technology, which we believe will give us better management and cost control over our copying expenses. Item 4D is a resolution approving a professional engineering services agreement with IEA Incorporated. This is for water and wastewater main improvements in Greenbrier Estates, phases 2, 3, and 4. Previously, IEA did the water and wastewater design for phase 1. They also have a contract for the water improvements for phase 2 through 4. As we get funds available for wastewater, we are now adding the wastewater design for phase 2, 3, and 4. And so this is a contract with IEA to do that design work. This will replace water lines, old water lines, as well as wastewater lines, and upsize where appropriate. This is an estimated amount of $59,838, and that is budgeted in the CIP budget. Item 4E is a resolution awarding a contract for sidewalk improvements, sidewalk construction program to Vestcorp Construction LLC. This was competitively bid, and Vestcorp was the winning bidder. This project will do a number of things, but it will install new construction, installing ADA compliant barrier-free ramps and sidewalks. A portion of these will be in the Fair Meadows North subdivision, which those of you that were on council previously will remember that this was a community development block grant project. So it will be funded, partially funded with CDBG funds. The remaining portion of the contract, the other improvements that will be done in Greenway Estates, and West Danieldale Road with barrier-free ramps will be paid for out of the Transportation Improvement and Safety Fund. So the CDBG portion, we expect to get $120,000 reimbursement from Dallas County, and we have total funding for this project is $331,425.
Is that the red light camera fund or a different fund?
That is the red light camera fund. And we did reduce the scope. Since that was going away, we reduced the scope of the contract to around $350,000. And then when the bids came in a little bit higher, so we had to reduce the scope a little bit more to get under the budget amount.
Okay, so unless we get revenue from another source of government, this will be pretty much it, sidewalks?
Well, we will always have a CDBG, and then that would be something that would be part of the council will look at. It would be general fund money, so we'd have to look at where, however you want to do that for funding sources. And we would obviously continue to look for grants as we can.
Do you mind if I cross that bridge when I get to it?
Yes, sir. I mean, no, sir, I don't mind.
How often is the CBG grant come to?
The CDBG allotment is every 2 years, and so part of our CDBG allotment pays for our code enforcement officer, and then we have other funding that we put towards a project.
So it's coming back next year?
Yeah, 'cause this was the year we didn't get anything, right?
2018 was when the project was selected. I think it's 2019 to 2020 funding. Where's Greg?
I'm right behind you.
Here you are. Is it 2019 and
I think
2020?
we picked it in 18, so we'll pick another one in 20, and then we'll do it in 21.
So 20 will get the money again.
Well,
Well,
we'll
no,
nominate the project, what we want to do with our money, and then we'll get the money.
Probably 21 would be when it would be, because it's
October
reimbursement.
of 21?
No, it's reimbursement, so it's when the project gets done, then we get reimbursed for the CDBG portion. So it probably would not be constructed until 2021.
Right, but what I was asking is, because I know you get the money, and then we have 1 year off,
Right.
and I think this is the year off.
Well,
We got the money.
they front load, they give us two-year chunks,
Right.
and then we say what we're going to do with the money. And so we said for the next 2 years, we're going to pay for one CDBG code officer, and then we're going to do one project. So in 2020, we did this
I
in
think
18.
we'll select in 2020, and then the contract is 2021-22, because we just approved the contract for CDBG, the 2-year contract, and I think we did it late last year after this project was selected, because then we submit this project, it becomes part of the contract, the 2-year contract. So we either approved the contract late last year or early this year. So I think that we're in the current 2-year cycle, 2019 and 2020, but we'll be picking another project. We'll get the funding amounts from them next year, 2020, probably in the summer.
And CDBG funds can only be spent in the areas that qualify for them.
Correct.
So they can't be spent anywhere else. And Fair Meadows qualified. That's what they can get the officer and the sidewalks.
And those are all of the items on the consent agenda. Unless there are any questions for staff on any of the other items, then we are complete with the briefing.
May I add, not a question, but a comment? When it comes to the items for individual consideration, I want to ask that the council adhere to its rules of procedure. A and B under items for individual consideration, according to my reading of the rules of procedure, says both proponents and opponents shall have a maximum of 10 minutes per side for their presentation. So it would seem to me that items A and B should each take no more than 20 minutes apiece. And when it comes down to the other items, for individual consideration, I want to propose that certain items be I'd like to make a motion that certain items be approved as written in this agenda per their request. C, E, F, G, H. Thank you.
You're certainly within your rights to ask that and to make that motion. It's not- it's
We
not-
have to do the motion out.
I know, I'm just
The
discussing.
International House and Museums, why'd you leave that one out?
I'm just discussing. So we're saying that you're within your rights to ask that, and it will be decided in council, not in here. And I don't think there's any further, just as long as, you know, we understand what you would like to do, but I don't believe that we need to have any discussion in here about it. Make your motion out there, and we can discuss that out
I accept it.
there. Okay? All right. Okay, moving on to the top of our agenda for our working session. Item 2A, receive a presentation from Dallas County Elections on vote centers, the impact on the city of Duncanville. And we have present with us, if you all have, if you've ever voted in the county of Dallas, and if you have your voter registration card, this young lady should be well known to you. This is Tony Pivenpool. And we're very thankful to have her with us tonight to give us a rundown on what our elections are going to be like, or have been, and how they proceed. Please, Tony.
Good evening, everyone, and I want to thank you all for inviting us here tonight, being my staff. I'll just introduce those here with me tonight. I have my Assistant Elections Administrator, Robert Hurd. I have my Election Day Operations Manager, Tandy Smith. And I have my voter outreach coordinator, Esmeralda Garcia, with us tonight. And what we'd like to do, we've been asked by your city secretary to be here tonight to let Duncanville know, and let you know I live just a few blocks from here, so this is part of me too. So I just want you to know about what Dallas County intends to change with the voting process in Dallas County. We are intended to proceed with county-wide polling locations in Dallas County. This is for all elections, not only for county elections, but all elections held within Dallas County. And what we mean by county-wide elections, county-wide polling places, that means a voter can go to any polling location that is established in that election. We're moving away from a precinct-based polling place. Remember, on election day, this is just for election day. You know, on election day, you had to go to the polling place of your precinct. But now, with this new system that we're trying to implement, the voter can go to any location throughout that election. If you have elections with your other cities, or like you have your elections in May, there may be other jurisdictions that are having elections that you join in with on a contract. So you'll be able, your voters can go to any one of those. So if someone in Garland is having an election, guess what? If your voters are passing through Garland, they'll be able to vote in Garland. So they'll be able to vote anywhere where polling places are established for your election. Now, how do we get to that polling,
Excuse me.
countywide polling location?
But-
Yes.
But only the ballot for Garland will be seen by that polling
Right.
location.
Right. Just only the ballots for that voter would be seen. So your ballot will be, your voter can get their own ballot there. Not the Garland residents can't vote
Okay,
on
that's what
yours.
I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
that they can just,
The Duncanville resident happens to be in Garland, can see
Right.
a voting polling location, they can go vote, and they will see the ballot.
they can
for
see the
Duncanville.
ballot there for Duncanville.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, to clear that up. Now, in order for us to have established countywide polling locations, there's a few things that we have to do. We have to get permission for this new process from the Secretary of State. We have to let them know that we intend to send the application, so we've done that. We've sent in an application requesting approval from the Secretary of State in order for Dallas County to participate in countywide voting. They have until September the 12th to let us know. Hopefully, they'll let us know sooner than that, but we should know if Dallas County is approved, because we've met all the requirements necessary to have vote centers here in Dallas County. Because we want them to know that there's a lot of benefits for the voters in Dallas County to have countywide polling locations. We're hoping that it takes away the confusion. You know, a lot of voters always complain about, I don't know where to go vote, right? They change, and you'll see, we have a list. Your polling locations for the city sometimes are different locations than what the county votes. So those voters get confused as, where do I go vote? So with vote centers, we're streamlining that process, and we want to make sure that we make all of our polling locations consistent, regardless of if it's a November election, primary election, or a city and school district election. They will all use the same polling locations. That'll take away that confusion from voters going to the wrong voting locations, and only just to be rejected, is sent to another location. And if they're there at the last minute, sometimes voters, when they go to a location, they find out they're in the wrong location, they just give up and say, look, I'm not gonna vote. So we want to take that away, that possibility of going to wrong locations, because any location is going to be the right one. Another prerequisite is that we had to have the type of election equipment that would house all the ballot styles in our equipment. So when you go to Garland, you'll have everybody's ballot. In doing so, we did purchase new voting equipment that you will see in this November Constitution Amendment election. It's called the Express Vote, and we have some information in your packet to show you this type of equipment. The Express Vote and the DS200. We will be giving you, once we get that okay from the state, we will send all cities and school districts information that we have been approved, and we're going to give you information on our election equipment, because every jurisdiction in Dallas County has to adopt this new voting system for your elections. So we're going to give that to your city secretary so she can bring it back to the council members to adopt this procedure and adopt our new voting equipment for your jurisdiction. Another requirement that to participate in countywide, we had to establish a community advisory committee, and your city secretary was on that committee and helped make some of the decisions about our locations, how to get the word out, and also about our equipment. So we want you to know that you were really involved already in that participation. Here is a list, and we have this in your packet tonight. All the jurisdictions that were a part of this decision making about vote centers, how it's going to operate in Dallas County, and have committed to getting the vote out to the voters to let them know this new procedure that's happening in Dallas County. So this is what we've completed, all of our objectives. We hope that we're not changing any of our polling locations. The only thing that I have to say about, I'm going to move forward to the area about what's changing for Duncanville. What's going to change is the way we calculate the cost that you pay for holding your election, how we actually select our polling places, and also how we select our judges. This is a list of your current locations and the judges that you normally use. Now, normally you have a lot of your polling locations, your precincts voted in a few locations here. With the county and the vote centers now, you will have all of these new locations here where voters can vote. So they have the opportunity, these will be the vote centers locations for Duncanville now. And as far as the judges, these are our judges when we have elections. If you join in with Dallas County during a November election, if you decide to have a special election in November, you will be using the judges here for Dallas County. When you have your May election, you are still able to select your own judges for your vote centers. And we will be working with the city secretary with that. So it's really not that much that's going to be changing. It's all to the benefit of the voters. The voters are basically getting the benefits, is that you can go to any location that is opened for your election. So that's the very benefit. We hope it increases turnout. We hope it increases the participation of our voters, because we have put a lot of money into this, and hopefully the voters will see the benefit. And we hope that you as a council and citizens of Duncanville will see the benefit of the election. So we will let your city secretary know exactly when we receive our approval from the state, and also give her the information regarding our equipment that has been adopted by the county, and we would have to have you all adopted for your election before May.
I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, let's see, last cycle in November, my husband and I went to vote in a church. Our daughter was at SMU. She went to vote, and they said, "You've already voted." In the church that we voted in. She had not voted. She wasn't even there. And
We'll have to
so
look
it
that
kind
up.
of concerns me about, and she was told she could, this was a viable voting place at SMU. And
Right. Did she vote at any of our other early voting
No.
locations?
No, she got a letter.
You mean that was early? Was that back in 2018?
Yes, it was November of 2018.
Now, I know,
think so,
did we use the
yeah.
colleges in 18?
Was it in 18? or
Not
19?
in election day. Not on election day,
Well, then it
early
was
voting.
19. It was the last voting.
We have not received changes on action day.
Okay, well, she got a letter from your department saying they were sorry, that it was a mistake, that they had shown that she had voted. She got the letter. But it just concerned me, because I thought, what she
If
did,
you can give us that information, I can definitely check into it
Yeah.
and see what the issue was.
what they didn't tell her was who she supposedly voted for, but that would have been interesting. Since-
No, we won't know that.
Since she
Once
didn't
you drop
vote.
that ballot in there, once you drop the ballot in there or not. And she was a student at SMU?
Yes.
Well, let's take it, because back in 2018, I know we did have a few colleges doing early voting for the last week of early voting. They were there for a few days. So we were on SMU campus.
I don't know, she
Yeah.
spent some time trying to convince them that she had not voted before, and it was kind of odd, because my husband and I voted at a place that we normally don't vote at. So they
You have
had
any
the
problem?
church right.
Okay.
No, they had the church right where we went to vote, but she did
If you
not
give me
vote.
that information, let me check on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the second thing is a backup with paper ballots.
Our new system gives you a backup now. Our new system will be used both, our new system has a paper based. It is backup paper both for early voting and election day. On early voting, we used to have the DRE, the touch screen. You voted early, you saw the touch screen. And on election day, we gave you a paper. And at that time, we used paper poll books where we stamped and put in there who had voted or not. But now we have electronic poll books we will be using, so when names come up, we can instantly find out if you voted or not. But this new system is a paper backup. So
So
the
there's a paper
system that,
ballot for every electronic
yes,
vote.
yeah.
Good.
It's a marking device, and we have paper for early voting and election day. We have the same system that you see on election day, you'll see it in early voting, so they're not different.
So would you pull back up the locations for Duncanville? So if I'm understanding correctly then that in May, particularly in May, all these locations will still be open for voting in May, is that correct?
These will, yeah. You're saying one, but we're adding 2 new ones.
Shading is the past, the yellow is the new.
Correct.
So even with, all right, I know it gives our voters an opportunity to go to any one of those locations, so we're paying now for 3 additional locations, is that correct?
Y'all went from 3 locations to 11.
Well, 3,
Yeah,
Several precincts
but
in
you
one
had
spot.
several precincts here.
okay.
Now, even though you had all of those precincts there, we had more equipment and more workers there, so it was just like you were having your own individual one as far as the cost. So which is now, when you have so many, you can go to any location. We don't want any one location to be, that would have a lot of people come to that location and have to wait. Because now, anybody from your precincts can come here. And anyone that's like across the street of Clark, on the other side of Clark is Duncanville, and the other side is Dallas.
Right.
So if Dallas has an election, guess what? Those people can come to any one of your locations. So we don't want to have a lot of people come in to, say, read a bird and have to wait. So we've expanded your locations here so voters have more opportunities, no matter where they are, right here in the city of Duncanville.
Are we paying for that?
Not in November, but you will, and the new way you will pay is based upon registration, registered voters, not locations. So you have 22,000 registered voters now.
Right.
Regardless of how many polling places you have, is the cost per vote.
Okay.
Yeah, rather than the cost per polling place.
So if Dallas came over, a bunch of people from Dallas came over, it won't skew your numbers.
Right.
It's just based on our voter registration.
It's just based upon your registration.
That's good. We
Yeah.
feel very sorry that they have to live in Dallas. However,
But you're only gonna pay for Duncanville.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate you and your staff coming. It's been very informative, and this is something we'll look forward to. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the annual city council calendar. You have that in front of you, any items that we need to be discussing and bringing up.
Mayor and council, there were a couple of items that we did specifically want to call your attention to and get a consensus from you. The first one is the October 1st council meeting. That is the same night as the National Night Out. I think the last couple of years you have gone ahead and canceled your meeting. I think in some cases in the past we've tried to keep the agenda light so that you could still get to the National Night Out. So we're just looking for your guidance on what you want to do with that meeting on October 1st. Chief, what time is the National Night Out?
I think it begins at 6 o'clock.
6 and runs till 8, 6 to 8, so it's only 2 hours.
I think we go to National Night Out.
Sure.
Unless you get something.
We'll manage it. The only thing would be, we can manage it as long as we know enough in advance. The only thing that would really be time to time would be a zoning case issue, but we can work around that.
So we're saying yes, we are having it, no, we're not.
We are not. We agreed not to have a city council meeting on October 1st. Basic consent.
We are all agreeing on
We are, yeah, pecking corn, nodding heads, yes. Okay, good enough. All right, yeah. October 1st is canceled.
Another thing that we wanted to look at was, as you know, we've gone out for requests for proposals on the Ladd property. That is the property, the state-owned property at Santa Fe and Danieldale. We expect to get proposals back. We wanted to set aside a time for you to review those and interview those potential developers. So we were looking at October 15th, if we could start at 4 o'clock, so that would give you 2 hours before your council meeting starts to have that discussion, if that's amenable to you.
When did those packages go out?
When did they go out?
When-
I know somebody that.
They went out over a month ago, about a month and a half. I don't have that exact date, but about a month and a half ago.
When do they do that?
October 1.
October 1.
I don't remember hearing anything about that. I know somebody that wants to bid on that. How do they get a package?
They
Where did we
We
see
put it out on our website through our process, and that would have been sent out through all of our normal channels.
I don't remember ever us talking
Get an
about it.
interested party still get the back.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. Just let them know.
Contact Jennifer Odie. She's backup purchasing, or Justin.
Okay.
I know ultimately the council decision, but how does EDC fall into selecting developers as well? Are they looking at them as well as just us making a final approval?
This is a council because it's not a property that's owned by the EDC.
Okay.
I mean, if you would like the EDC to be part of that process, then certainly that's, you know.
Not necessarily.
I'm just curious. Be good to listen
We're good.
in.
We're good.
So is the 15th okay? 4 o'clock on 15th? See some head nods?
Yeah.
I'll need to look real quick.
Another item that we wanted to try to schedule sometime, and we don't really have a date in mind, but we are working to try to set up a business community roundtable. That was something that y'all had previously discussed, wanting to have an opportunity to meet with businesses as a council, just for like an informal discussion. So we were thinking of something potentially late afternoon, early evening, but we don't really have anything set right now. Is there something in November? Start getting into November, December, it's probably not good months because of holidays and stuff, so we'd have to either try to do it in October or wait until after the first of the year. But wanted to get your all's thoughts on that.
Still a good idea if we could put it together, but it's going to be tight. Looks like
I
the
mean, we
most
need to have
we
enough
do it.
time too to invite people, you know, so it's not something we want to.
Looks like the last week of October would be the only real opportune time.
Well, and you have your planning session then, don't you?
No, it's in September.
Oh, it's in September. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just looking at the last week in October. It's really the only good time.
Where's TML on here?
The 9th through the 11th.
Through the 11th.
October 9th.
Oh, I
through
see,
11th.
it's not dark.
And
Make it dark.
And we were also looking at having a joint city council, P&Z, and EDC meeting somewhere, sometimes. And that's pushing it now, but we're looking at the calendar. Wouldn't be November, and surely wouldn't be December, so it looks like we pushed into January to have that joint one.
I
for all
think we need
three.
to have a meeting sometime to go over the rules of procedure. Because we make those up for ourselves, and we've not done that in a few years.
Years. Oh, there again, we've got the end as well. Why don't y'all take a look at what time you've got in September, in October? That would just be council and, let's see, review. And so that would include who from staff to go over those on it.
What's that?
For the rules of procedure, who would be,
That's us, just us. We make them up for ourselves.
we don't need any input from staff, guidance from staff,
I mean,
historical aspect from staff.
I'm sure Kevin could be here, but it's,
Well, there are things that affect the city manager, I think would be appropriate.
Sure, well, that's why I'm asking. It's, when we're looking at rule of procedure as a codified document, I would prefer to have at least Kevin here.
Is it codified?
No, it's not common.
Well, I'm saying, when I say codified, it's black and white. It's black and white, it's a document, it's available for public inspection at any time.
You could put it on your retreat agenda. Normally, what we've done is the first day has been facilitated, the second day has been, half day has been specific issue. So if you want to allow some time on that Saturday to
It
discuss.
takes longer than that, Kevin.
That's gonna take time.
Yeah. And the first day, we're having a facilitator.
If we
Well,
need time,
this-
we can push it back until January, February next year.
Well, it's gonna take a lot of preparation on each of us individually, to look over every single page, every single sentence, every single one, what the recommended changes are. We put those, we input them to Kevin. He can consolidate them into a changed document, so that when we go into discussion, everybody's already aware of what's happening. We don't walk in cold.
The last
It's a
month of
matter of
September.
preparation.
There's nothing.
Last week, we had it before the retreat. October.
I thought that was a retreat.
Before the retreat.
No,
Or after.
it's gotta be after the retreat. It's gonna take a whole bunch of time. I don't see this as being something we're gonna be able to do.
It doesn't take that much, it just takes longer than half a day with a bunch of items.
That's what I mean, but
Yeah.
it's a matter of how much individual preparation time each of us puts into it.
But we can do it that week sometime.
The retreat's not on the calendar, is it?
Yes.
It is the 27th.
September 27th. Agreement. Okay. Well, ponder that. I guess we can put some input to Kevin in terms of the day, or if you want to settle on the day right now. For that last week of, well, it's actually the first week of October. Third?
I'm not ready the first week of October.
October 1st, you're not?
The week, October 3rd through the
First.
first.
It's a Tuesday night.
That's,
And-
First of October, that's not it.
Oh, it's on the next page, I was looking at the bottom.
Thursday, October 3rd?
I'm not ready.
No good? Well, look at your calendars. Let's not go into the weeds tonight. Look at your calendars and give a couple of opportune times to Kevin by email, and he'll come back with a list and see if we can coordinate on it. Okay?
Sounds good to me.
All right. And Kevin, if you would look sometime, I guess, after the first of the year for a consolidated council, P&C, EDC meeting, we'd appreciate that as well. Just real quick, because we do have an executive session item on the calendar. If we can get to it and get a in council by 7, it'd be really, really nice. I have added on September the 18th at 8 o'clock in the morning, coffee with the mayor at the senior center from 8 to 9 o'clock. So we'll publicize that. It's just going to be a sit-down time for people to come in, have a cup of coffee, and lay it on me, and then I'm leaving at 9 o'clock, so I got an appointment at 9:30. Subsequent ones may go a couple hours, depending on how things go.
Say this again.
You can come.
No, what are you saying? No, say it again.
Coffee with the mayor.
Okay.
Have a cup of coffee. I'm going to be sitting there
And it's what day?
September 18th, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 to 9.
Play checkers.
Play checkers.
And then, Kristen reminded me one other thing that we did, in November, we were looking at another town hall. We're kind of looking at the 7th or the 14th of November. So didn't know if one of those was preferable. We don't have a topic yet, we're just kind of trying to get something calendared.
I think it's
be the vision we come out with out of the retreat. Where we see.
Yeah, I think that we should wait till we have a little more time to,
Wait for what?
well, if topic out of the retreat or a topic that,
The other retreats, October, so we have enough time to,
think of something.
and I think we share what we.
Well,
what we decide.
it's just getting November 7th as a possible town hall. If we're okay with that?
Oh, so you're not talking about the topic?
No.
Oh.
Topic undecided, all we're
I was gonna
agreeing
say.
upon is the date. No topic.
Don't borrow trouble. Isn't that what your grandmother told you? Kevin?
Go ahead and pencil in 7th.
I didn't mind.
We're okay?
7?
Yeah, pencil in 7th, shut down the 14th.
Yeah, 7.
I won't be here on the 7th. I'm doing TML economic development. And Bastrop.
Oh, that's a
I'm one of
2-day
the,
deal, isn't it?
I'm one of the presenters.
Is that a 2-day deal?
Uh,
I saw it advertised.
2 day. Yeah, 7th and 8th.
Yeah. Would you mind us having a town hall without you?
I guess if you, depends on if I like what the topic is.
That's what I was gonna say.
All right.
We're developing your
Let's go
home.
with the 7th, and if we have to make any changes, we can. Okay. Come on. There we go. Okay, it is, what is it? 6:43. We will, we're recessing, right? We're recessing the briefing session and going into executive session. And hopefully we'll be out there at 7. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7:11 p.m., August the 20th, 2019, calling to order our city council meeting for this date. Whew. Thank you very much for your attendance and your patience. Hold on. Okay. All right. So we have completed our briefing session and our executive session as well. And so we will now move into our invocation with Pastor Dr. Miguel Lopez. Please come forward and give us our invocation. Please stand, please.
Father, thank you for tonight. Thank you for allowing us to enjoy the freedoms that we have in our country, in our city. Just gathering to discuss the issues of our community is already a blessing. So I pray for your blessing tonight and for your wisdom on the members of our city council, for our mayor, Lord, for our first responders, for everyone in our community and every city. And may your blessing be on our city, that we may be known as a place where there is justice, where there is liberty, where there is peace and mutual concern. May the items in the agenda tonight be discussed in a spirit of civility and decorum and mutual respect. And may we do what is right for everyone. In the name of Jesus, my Savior, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in pledges to our flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, I've got a few items I'd like to discuss for the mayor's report. Are you timing me? Is that what you're doing? Okay. First thing I would like to bring up to everybody is some recent news about our Duncanville Independent School District. I know you might think that's a little out of place, but it's not. Because whenever we encounter citizens in terms of economic development and relocation of individuals to our city, the first thing that people ask is, what are the schools like? And as you may or may not be aware, the state of Texas changed its evaluation processes very recently to give a letter grade to our schools in the state. And the first one that came out was Duncanville got a C. Well, I'm very pleased and proud of our Duncanville Independent School District. They scored an 84, which brings it up to a very, very good B. Now this is strong, and I just want you to know that when you meet people and they talk about what's going on in the city of Duncanville, while yes, it is the Duncanville Independent School District, we should be proud of the efforts that Dr. Smith and his staff are making to improve our schools, because it's very strong in terms of what it can do for us in economic development and bringing new people to our city. Along those lines, we as a council have a pretty good relationship with the DISD, and they ask us to participate in some events. And what I'd like to show you now is a video in which I participated along with, I saw Councilmember Cooks and Councilmember Vera Cruz in the video as well. Now, were you there? Okay, I didn't see a picture of you. Were you there too, Patrick?
I was at the school, but I didn't know I was being photographed.
Oh, okay. So the invitation came to council to participate in the first day of school, to welcome students. And it was really enjoyable to greet the kiddos. So this is the video that was prepared professionally by the staff of the ISD. You want to run that, April?
Sure.
Welcome to Duncanville ISD, first day of school, D-ville day 1. Let's go check it out.
I saw you. Here you are again. Hi, I'm Barry Gordon, the mayor of the city of Duncanville, with just a small number of the over 800 teachers in our school district who are here to help you achieve your best. And so welcome to the first day of school, and
Have a great D-ville day 1!
there is the end.
So we just ended the first day of what's going to be an amazing school year. Today I got to see Duncanville ISD at its finest. So our students came in, they were excited, they were ready to learn, and our teachers were excited, prepared to make this the best school year ever. Parents, your love and support, that's the foundation of our success. So from pre-K to high school, from our maintenance to administration, you made today a very special day. So thank you for doing your part as we continue to write success stories one student at a time. So I want to encourage you to keep this momentum throughout the course of the school year, because our best is yet to come.
You know, Mayor, you allowed me to come in on your portion of the video, but I also wanted to compliment the staff and the mayor and this council, because about a year ago, we asked that the school board meet with the council around dinner and have discussions. And from that discussions, we decided to have one takeaway, and that takeaway was that this project together from a council and a school board joining in together, meeting students coming for the first day. So really it's hats off to both the school board and the city council for sitting around the table and having that discussion. So Mayor, I wanted to mention that to you again.
Appreciate that, yeah. And it's very strong for the council and the DISD to have a good relationship. In fact, sitting in the back of the room, we have a trustee of the Duncanville Independent School District, Janet Vera Cruz. Welcome. Let's see. Okay. Coming up on September 28th is the Tri-Cities Animal Shelter Gala. And what this is an event to earn money for the Tri-City Animal Shelter, which is corporately run between DeSoto, Duncanville, and Cedar Hill. And one of the things that they do to raise money is they put together a mayor's basket. Now, the mayor's basket is comprised of stuff, not used stuff, new stuff. It can be gift cards, it can be traffic appliances, it can be anything you can put your hands on. And last year, we won. Duh. Yay. And it is a very healthy rivalry between the three cities to have the biggest basket, because people bid on the basket for dollars. And so what I'm asking all of our city to do and our council is start thinking about go to the store and buy some stuff. And the official consolidator for all this stuff is Pat Weaver. And so she and Ken put together the basket for all this stuff. And so anything that you buy, bring it by City Hall, and there'll be a place here in City Hall to be consolidated, and we'll put this basket together and for the presentation September 28th. What? Yeah, we do. I thought I made that clear. I guess not. We're going to win. We have to win. Okay. Coming up for the first time on September 18th is going to be Coffee with the Mayor in the Senior Center from 8 to 9 in the morning. And I'm just going to be there to chat with folks and see what's on their mind. Just wanted to write that down for you. And also want to mention, maybe taking city manager's words, but reminder about the town hall that's coming up on waste, because it's important. There's been some confusion, I think, in our city by our citizens in terms of exactly what we did as a council in renewing that or coming up with a new contract with Republic. So we're going to go into great detail. And I want to state at this point in time, I did state it when we actually had our city council meeting, that we as a council did what was most beneficial, most economical for our citizens as well. We had a lot of people provide input to every one of us that leave it the way it is. Well, leaving it the way it is means something has to go up. You can't do what has to go up in terms of services without having some price increases. So we're going to go into detail about that and clear up any confusion. Basically, you're still going to get trash picked up twice a week. It's still going to be in bags. We're not going containers unless you want to rent one. And we're still going to get recycling once a week on the curb. The only real change in this is the amount of bulk, which is going to be 4 cubic yards. And Mr. Ramey has some slides that are available. We went through all that. So the last thing, and that's August 29th in the Senior Center at 6:30 for that town hall. And there's signs already going up around the city if you've seen them on the streets. Last thing, it would let you know that the Hampton Inn and Suites is now officially open. I saw some cars there the other day, and I went, I guess people are actually staying there. So, very well. Glad to do that and to pass on that information to you. So, that's my report. Any city council members' reports?
Mr. Cooks.
Yes, good evening. I still have the Lunch and Learn on August 22nd, 6:15 to 7:30. Our guest this time is going to be our own school board members, who's going to talk about the role of the school board. The Honorable Janet Veracruz, who's in the back, will be there for dinner, as well as the Honorable Cassandra Phillips will be there as well. So we're inviting, if you have students or don't have students, come learn what's going on with the school board through our Lunch, Laugh, and Learn, August 22nd, 2019. This month and next month, it will be hosted at the Great Papados. They're serving lunch menu at that time from 6:15 to 7:30. Someone told me that's not lunch, but it's lunch because it's called lunch. So just come lunch and learn with us at Papados, August 22nd. Then next month, we also will have the mayor who will come out and have lunch with us at Papados as well. So that's number one. But I also want to extend congratulations to April,
who is I'm gonna call our social media guru, because of course we've had great people in the past, but my hat's off to April as I look at social media, as I look at all the positive things that the city is doing. April's behind those things, displaying the positives of Duncanville. So April, I want to personally thank you for working with Kevin, because I know hard heads like us, we don't always get it, but you truly get it. So thank you for displaying the positives that you have displayed in our city. And when I looked at the website and I even saw the budget display that's coming up, I also knew that it was not Richard's doing. And so I said, it has to be April again, who has a positive outlook on how to read a budget. So April, thank you very much on behalf of what you do.
Thank you, Ms. Jameson.
I just wanted to say a big thank you to Ed Morrison and his son Ted. They own the Freeman Dodge and the Freeman Chevrolet, and they had a very nice barbecue and party on August 11th, and it was a lovely event, and they add a lot to the city and welcome you all to come and buy a car.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you. Item 1C, City Manager's Report. Mr. Hugman.
I have no report.
Okay. Okay. All right. Moving on to item number 2 is a proclamation recognizing August 31st, 2019 as International Overdose Awareness Day. And I will do that. Before starting out, I want to invite Teresa Land to come up with me. Teresa is the Chief Nursing Officer for Methodist Charlton Medical Center. I got it right. Good. Teresa and I and many people at Methodist Charlton have been working on the International Overdose Awareness Day. I received an email. The chairman of this particular Awareness Day group initiative is actually in Australia. I received an email from this individual talking about overdoses in the world, and we have a problem in our own nation in terms of drug overdose. And I wanted to do something because it touched my heart and my spirit about drug overdoses and the individuals that are tragically losing their lives and their livelihood as a result of this. But I didn't think it was actually something the city should do on its own because of its medical perspective. So I sent an email over to Methodist Charlton. They jumped on it like crazy. And we had a meeting last week, and there were over 40 people in the room showing the enthusiasm, the acceptance, and the necessity and importance of doing something for International Overdose Awareness Day. So I have a proclamation that we've prepared that we're going to give to Methodist Charlton, and Teresa is going to accept that on behalf of the hospital. And on August 31st, right, we have a police department open house. And the police department is going to be providing space to Methodist Charlton. They're going to bring medical medical people? Is that the right word? They're going to be bringing medical people equipped to discuss drug overdose and addiction to individuals that come to our police department for this open house. So this has become very, very important to me, very important to the hospital, very important to our city and community, and very important for our police department as well to engage in this. And I want to thank our police department for doing this and for everybody at Methodist Charlton as well. So let me read this here. Whereas, observed on the 31st of August every year, International Overdose Awareness Day seeks to create better understanding of overdose, reduce the stigma of drug-related deaths, and create change that reduces the harms associated with drug use. And whereas, in 2018, there were 747 International Overdose Awareness Day events of all kinds held in 38 countries. And whereas, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes, most recent World Annual Drug Report, 585,000 people around the world died as a result of drug use in 2017. And whereas in 2017, more than 70,000 Americans lost their lives to drug overdose. And whereas overdose can affect anybody, and one of the messages of this day is that the people who overdose are loved and they are missed. And whereas communities around the world are coming together on August 31st, 2019 to remember those who have died or suffered permanent injury due to drug overdose. And whereas, by holding an event this year, the people of Duncanville, Texas, are joining in a global movement for understanding, compassion, and change to raise awareness of one of the world's most urgent public health crises, one that unfortunately is worsening. And whereas we encourage members of the community who have experienced this tragedy to come to our event and to stand in solidarity with the men and women who have been personally affected by overdose. Therefore, I, Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, in concert with the Duncanville Police Department and Methodist Charlton Medical Center, join those around the world in recognizing August 31st, 2019 as International Overdose Awareness Day. And thank you so much to Methodist Charlton for your help and your assistance.
So I want to thank Mayor Gordon for reaching out to us, and that event that meeting he was talking about with the 40-ish people, they had been given about 3 hours notice. So if I'd given them more notice, I'm sure there would be a lot more, but I dare to say that I don't think there's anyone that hasn't been touched in some way by a family member, friend, or someone that they know that has a drug addiction problem and possibly overdose. It is a national problem, it's an international problem, and I thank you for bringing this to our attention. And I just want to say, once we can remove the stigma and truly begin to understand the root cause of addiction and overdose, it is only then that we will begin to understand how we can fix this and how we can come up with solutions and change the way that it is now. So thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you.
Picture, if that's okay.
Thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda is citizens' input. And at this time, we will take comments from our citizens. They will be limited to 2 minutes to speak. And please, I have one card here. And please know that during this time to speak, you will be timed, and the council is not permitted to engage in any discussion with the individual speaking. But the staff may pursue any kind of research and discussion for future action. So the card I have is for Gail Sliger. And if you please give us your name and your address.
Gail Sliger, 1405 South Main Street, Duncanville, Texas. Mayor, council, city manager. First, I'd like to thank all of you for your time, talents, and efforts given to our city. As most of you know, I come to most of the council meetings, and it's been most distressing to me lately, the manner in which some of the people standing at this podium have been addressed. That includes staff members, developers, and people with concerns for our city. It is my hope that as elected representatives of our citizens that you would be aware that your conduct from this platform influences the growth of our city. If I were considering Duncanville for a location of a business or my home, I would be quite concerned by some of the conduct I have witnessed towards each other on this council and those that come before you. As an almost 72-year resident of the city I love, I respectfully ask that you be aware of how your words and actions affect our great city. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other cards received, we are moving on to item number 4, the consent agenda. City Secretary, please read the items.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the July 29th and July 30th Board and Commission interviews. 4B, consider a resolution approving a 1-year renewal agreement for city-paid employee and retiree medical and prescription with Blue Cross Blue Shield Texas. 4C, consider a resolution awarding the renewal of and authorizing a 5-year fixed rental master agreement for multifunctional copiers citywide with UBO Business Services, Inc. in the estimated yearly amount of $61,608, resulting in an estimated total contract amount of $308,040 over the 5-year fixed agreement. 4D, consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of professional engineering services agreement number 19-070 for design services for water and wastewater main improvements and Greenbrier Estate subdivisions phases 2, 3, and 4 with IEA Inc. in the proposed amount of $59,838.89. 4E, consider a resolution authorizing award of IFB number 19-053 fiscal year 19 sidewalk construction program to Vestcorp Construction LLC through the city's competitive bid process with an estimated expenditure amount of $331,425 based on the unit bid pricing and revised estimated quantities.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Please vote. Motion is approved. Moving on to item 5A, items for individual consideration. 5A, discuss the fiscal year 20 proposed budget and conduct a public hearing. Mr. Summerlin will start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As required by our city charter, Section 4, we are required to have a public hearing on the budget. This will be followed by a public hearing on the tax rate, which is required by the Truth in Taxation Act. To begin, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the budget process overview. We start our planning in January, February. We have the departments begin to work on developing their budget through March and April, and then in April and May, we have reviews with the city manager and the finance department, and then going into June and July, review with the city manager, and then filing at the end of July with the city secretary as required by the charter. And then during August and September, it's the council's budget to propose changes and to have the final budget meeting with them. And then, of course, when we get to the second meeting in September, we have to adopt, by charter, we have to adopt 10 days before the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. We do build the budget with the city council capstones in mind. Quickly, those are most engaged citizens in America, create high-quality neighborhoods, preserve historic Main Street and City Center, create multimodal transportation alternatives, grow Duncanville, and become best practices organization. We also held a town hall meeting, which we have done for the last several years in March. And you can see that we asked the citizens to tell us the things that they would like to see the city spend more on, spend less on, spend the same on. And so we've categorized those on these tables here. And of course, they're in vote order. After we've got all those in place, then we allow people to vote on those and to be able to rank them in terms of importance as the citizens see them. So just to go over a few of the highlights, the commuter rail, Southern Dallas County Transit Study, that's going to be funded by the North Central Council of Governments. Our economic development and restaurants was one that was very important to people to spend more on. And so we continue to have funding for redevelopment, repurposing, and we also are budgeting for a part-time intern for the economic development area. And dog park was mentioned. City is exploring a potential for a regional dog park connected with the Tri-City Animal Shelter. And then, of course, public safety. In order to maintain market competitiveness, we've allocated $400,000 to increasing starting pay, and also to address tenure-based funding for the police and fire, which average about 4%. To spend more on, finishing that up, bike lanes and trails. We have $1.5 million approved in the bond election, and a bike lane study on Daniel Dale Road has been funded. And then public information, expand our technology, marketing, professional video development. And then spend less on red light cameras. HB 1631 took the care of that for us. That was passed and signed by the governor, and that prohibits the use of red light cameras. And essentially, we transferred about $238,000 in operation and maintenance costs that was related to traffic signal systems that now has to be paid out of the general fund by taxpayer money. Just to give you a quick overview of the budget, our fiscal year starts in October 1, ends September 30th. This budget is based on a half-cent property tax rate reduction. In the prior year, we reduced the property tax rate by 1 cent. And so this year's rate that we're proposing is 0.743447 per $100 of valuation. So just a little less than 75 cents. Proposed operating budget for all funds is $63 million, and proposed general fund operating budget's about half of that, $33.8 million. We have 309.6 employees, full-time equivalent employees. And so one of the important things is that I'll talk about a little bit later on is that our budget is structurally balanced. That means that our operating revenues are equal to or greater than our operating expenditures. I always like to talk in the budget about what portion of the taxes paid to the city of Duncanville versus the entire total tax rate. So on this table, you can see that $2.92 essentially is the total tax rate for someone that lives within the Duncanville ISD. And if you break that down, 52% basically of the tax goes to the independent school district, and 25.5% goes to the city of Duncanville, and the remainder goes to Dallas County. If you look at the average taxable values, that's always an indicator of the health of the economy, the demand for housing. And so you can see on this chart that as we came out of the 2008-9 housing crash, which really didn't completely taper off into 2013, that since 2013, we've been on an upward trend in terms of the value of those, the average home, and currently $150,000. If we look at our 2019 tax rates and compare those to, or compare that to 2018, average taxable value for a single-family house in 2019, $150,000, and so the tax on that would be $1,121. That's city-only tax. One of the things that we didn't change, water and sewer rates. There was no increase. We did absorb costs both from Dallas Water Utilities for the cost of water and from Trinity River Authority, but we're able to keep the rates the same because we have a healthy fund balance at the moment. Trash and recycling rates are increasing, $4.50 for curb, $5 for alley residential, and $5 for commercial hand pickup. So in all, average homeowner is going to pay about $158 more per year, or about $13.18 per month. That's $105 in tax, and then the rest of that in the garbage rates. But this allows the city to maintain our existing levels of service and adjust for inflation. It also increases street maintenance funding by $150,000. It increases police pay 4%, fire 5%, so that we can remain competitive in the market. It provides funding for capital improvements related to infrastructure upgrades. These are things that are outside the scope of the bonds, the bond-funded projects, and continue to support the economic development initiatives. If you look at the average Duncanville city tax, you can see that trend that it has been increasing as housing values have increased. So what property taxes pay for citizens, if you break that down, $92.10 a month is what the average homeowner pays per day, $3.07 per day. So you get police and fire protection, you get streets, sidewalks, traffic signals, 17 parks, 13 playgrounds, 244 acres of parkland, a rec center, senior center, public library, code enforcement, building, health inspections, and you also get street maintenance. All this for about the same amount that you pay for a monthly cable bill or for a cell phone plan. So if we look at our residential, the tax impact per capita, this is simply the residential taxable value divided by the population. You can see that our housing values are lower than other cities, so that amount is a lower value, and that's comparing that to Lancaster, Dallas, DeSoto, and Cedar Hill. Then if you look at how the city stacks up from with the tax rate, you can see the black line toward the middle of the page is the city of Duncanville, and with our proposed 0.743, we fall in the middle with Lancaster, Dallas above us, and DeSoto and Cedar Hill below us. One of the important things is to look at commercial business personal property taxable value per capita. Again, this is the taxable value of the commercial and business property divided by the population. And so this demonstrates that City of Duncanville has lower commercial business property values than these other cities. And you can see that a little bit more clearly when you look at this next chart. The green portion at the bottom shows the residential taxable value, and the red part on the top shows the commercial and business personal property. And that split for the total is 67% residential, 33% for commercial and business personal property. And that percentage has pretty well remained the same since about 2008. The budget is made up of a lot of different funds. We have governmental funds, proprietary funds. Those are business-like funds that have to be funded not from property or sales tax, but they have to be funded through user fees. We have fiduciary funds, and then we also have internal service, special revenue, debt service, and capital improvement project funds. So what I want to talk a little bit more in depth about is the general fund. That's the thing that the fund that where your property taxes go into, except for the small amount that goes to debt service. And that takes care of all the general government, finance, parks, recs, public works, fire, police. If you want to look at our general fund revenues, they're 32.9 million, and you can see that 53% of that comes from property tax, 24% from sales tax, transfers in 7.9%, franchise receipts 5.6%, and then interest and other things like permits and fees 9.2%. If you look at the expenditures by cost center, you can see that police and fire make up just less than half of the entire cost. So public safety is almost, it's about 49% actually of the entire budget. And then if you add in public works, you get up near about 70%. And then if you add in parks and rec, that brings you up to about 80%. So basically your public safety, your streets, public works, sidewalks, et cetera, and then your parks and rec account for about 80% of the budget. Then if we want to look at the general fund big picture, the important thing to notice here is that our ending fund balance, we are budgeting to end at $6.6 million, which is right on target of our 75-day fund balance. Our policies call for 60-day fund balance, but we maintain a 75-day fund balance. Our target is 75-day fund balance so that we have a little more cushion for economic downturns or for any type of catastrophic event that might be unforeseen. Also important to note here is that our operating revenues, as I noted before, 32.9 million, which is greater than our operating expenditures of 32.3 million. If you look at our revenues by source, again, the property tax and sales tax for the all funds combined are still the majority of that. Then you have wastewater fees at 15%, water fees at 13%, transfers at 5.5%, and then garbage, franchise, field house revenue, other hotel occupancy tax at 1.5%, and drainage fees at 1.2%. Looking at expenditures by fund, of course, the general fund, housing, public safety, and general government accounts for the majority at 53.6%, utility fund at about 30.7%, solid waste 6.4%, field house 3%, other funds 2.9%, and then economic development at 2.8%, and our red light camera at 0.6%. So there's these important dates that are left. On September 3rd, we will have our second public hearing on the tax rate and a brief overview of the budget again. And then on September 17th, we will have approval and adoption of the tax rate and the budget. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor to conduct the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Summerlin. At this time, we will open our session up to a public hearing at 7:52. And according to our rules of order, the way this operates is that we can divide it into those in favor and those opposed. This is a discussion item, by the way, for council. This is not a motion to approve. It's pure discussion. So each, those who are in favor and those who are opposed, in aggregate, those opposed and those in favor have 10 minutes in total to speak to council and to voice your concerns to us. And so those in favor that wish to speak about the proposed budget, please approach. Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Those opposed, please approach. Please give us your name and address.
Wesley Jameson, 1214 Lady Lane, Duncanville. I appreciate the presentation. I noticed one aspect conspicuously missing was any cost-saving measures that had been proposed or come by department. I think that'd be important for us to see what has been done. I know several of the boards that I talk to and deal with, one of the things, since personnel is one of the largest expenses that you have, is to propose a flat rate increase, a dollar amount. Find the average amount of salaries and compensation, and those that dollar amount would be 3% at that average. If you make less than the average, actually you'll make more than 3%. But if you're above the average, you'll make less. We have a very heavy administrative management department head salary here in Duncanville. I don't know if that is a cost-efficient one. I think we need to look at not only the amount that we pay the department heads, but I think we also need to look at the supervisory to subordinate ratio and see why we have so many assistants that operate within the city management department, public works, parks. We have a lot of people that are doing a lot of supervisory work, and those people make a lot of money. And 3% for someone making $150,000 is $4,500, but 3% to someone who's making $50,000 is $1,500. I think it makes more sense to give the people who are making less more than the people who are making, quite frankly, a extremely wealthy amount of income. But I like to see in a budget not only what we're spending and where the money is coming from, but why has there not been more cost-saving proposals? It's easy to spend everything that you get. You know, if you're not in a performance-based compensation plan, and all you do is take the money that's given to you and dole it out, that's a pretty easy thing to do. I mean, you find this bucket here, this bucket there. If there was a more performance-based compensation plan, something that gave departments who are cost-efficient a bonus, something to say, hey, good job, you've saved us money, I think that makes sense too. There's a lot of things that can be done to make the efficiency of the system a much better operation than just simply saying every year, here's 3%, here's 3%, and then using the excuse that we have to be market sensitive. There's a lot of people who drive here from a long way away to work here. And part of what I hear in the city is the reason that they work here is because they get paid a lot of money. And I can see from years past these compensation comparison studies that show it. This city pays this city pays that. Then why do you drive from Capel and South Lake and Cleburne to work here? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed? Seeing none opposed, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing and a second. All in favor, please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item 5B, conduct a public hearing on the 2019 proposed tax rate. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is required by Truth in Taxation. Some people in my industry like to call that 10 for short. And so jumping right in, talk about the effective tax rate. That's the rate that applied to the new taxable valuation would yield you the same amount of revenue that you received in the prior year. And of course, if values are going up, that rate's going to go down. If values are going down, that rate's going to go up. And so that is a basis for calculating the rollback rate. And our effective rate at 0.686 cents, we from there calculate, if you want to look at it real simply, they're about 7 or 8 legal pages worth of calculations to get to the rollback rate. And I won't bore you with all the details, but if you just want to look at it from a simplistic standpoint, it's basically 8% above the effective tax rate. And so our rollback rate is 75.1 cents per $100 valuation. And of course, with the legislation that passed, Senate Bill 2, next year that will be capped at 3.5%. And so Our preceding year tax rate, or our current tax rate, is 0.748447 per $100 evaluation, and their proposed tax rate a half cent less at 0.743447. And the way that you calculate your annual property taxes is you take your taxable amount by that tax rate, and then divide that by 100, and that will yield you what your taxable tax amount is. So I'd like to build this chart so that we compare that effective tax rate to the actual tax rate, and you can see that our actual proposed tax rate at 0.743447 is about 7.5% above the effective tax rate, and it's about a little more than 1% below the rollback rate. Two important things that by law I have to point out. The second public hearing, as I mentioned before, on the tax rate will be held on September the 3rd at the regular city council meeting starting at 7 p.m. Here in the council chambers at 203 East Wheatland Road. And the council will vote on that on the tax rate at the regular council meeting on September 17th at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor to conduct a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Summerlin. Once again, this item 5B is a public hearing. It is not a decision item. Nothing necessary for the council to make a vote upon. So at this particular time, we'll have the same rules of order that we had for the first public hearing, and that is those in favor are invited to speak, and the total time for in favor and opposed is going to be limited to 10 minutes in the aggregate. So we will open the public hearing for those in favor at 8:01. Seeing none approached, those in favor, the public hearing is closed. Those opposed is opened at 8:01. Please give us your name and address again.
Wesley Jameson, 1214 Lady Lane. I'm not really opposed to this, and I'm not for it, so I'm kind of like in the middle. But the problem I have with the half-cent rollback is it's kind of a slippery slope, because then your cap is based on that lower amount the next year. And if the TAV goes down, you're starting with a reduced possibility for revenue. I prefer instead to have a homestead exemption, something that benefits those people, and based on the calculations that I've seen, we're a little bit, or almost the same amount as what the homestead exemption would be with this half-cent rate change. If that's wrong, correct me, but I think it's close anyway, 230,000 versus 180,000, something like that. And that's a more sustainable savings to taxpayers. If the TAV starts going down, which, you know, it's going to have to go down sooner or later, it can't continue to go up. You've already rolled it back a half cent. Now your cap is at 3.5% over that now reduced rate. What are you going to do? Probably have to raise it or have an election some way, or reduce any other exemptions that you have. Well, you know, I think the homestead exemption was a great idea that could have benefited the homeowners. And instead, we're going to do this half cent that really nobody's going to realize that either. But at least it's not going to start your next year cap off at a lower level. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other individuals opposed? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. The chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing and a second. All at 8:03. Please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item 5D. Oops, I'm sorry, 5C. 5C. Consider a resolution approving an offer of a hotel occupancy tax grant for the fiscal year 1920 budget in the amount of $30,000 to the Duncanville Community Theater to directly enhance and promote tourism and the hotel industry, conditional upon approval in the fiscal year 1920 budget.
Mayor, I'd like to move that this item be approved.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second to that. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you. Item 5D, consider a resolution approving an offer of a hotel occupancy tax grant for the fiscal year 19-20 budget. That sounds a little weird, doesn't it? Fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, I'll say it that way. Budget in the amount of $40,000 to the Museum of International Cultures to directly enhance and promote tourism and the hotel industry, conditional upon approval in the fiscal year 19, fiscal year 20 budget.
I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second.
I'd like to propose a friendly amendment.
Go ahead, please.
I would like to have this motion approved, subtracting out $15,000 due to the fact that there is no other city in the Metroplex that I know of that has 2 visitors centers. And I would certainly not want our city to have the reputation of doling out money for 2 visitor centers, being very different from any other city in the Metroplex. So I would like for this measure to be approved at a level of $25,000.
We have a motion as an amended motion, which takes precedent over the first motion to remove $15,000 as a line item as a serve as a visitor center. Excuse me?
Has to be seconded.
I'm reiterating the motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to, I'll reiterate it again, this is an amended motion to remove $15,000 from the amount requested of $40,000. And that's a particular line item for the service as a visitor center. We have a motion and a second to approve this amended motion. Please vote.
Wait, I want to say something.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Davidson.
I don't think that the Museum of International Cultures is standing for a service center. They are doing that because they're open 7 days a week, and our current visitor center is not open with staff or people there. They're just stating that they are open to answer any questions or to direct people or whatever. I don't think that they are necessarily, and we don't have any information about how many visitors centers that any other cities have. So just to say that, we don't know how many visitor centers a place has or how many cities have. Usually we have some sort of a presentation on that. So do you know how many centers other cities have?
As a rule, because I've been in tourism for about 10 years. The majority of communities have 1 major visitor center. It depends on where they're located. Sometimes there is on major highways, sometimes TxDOT, as you know, when you enter and exit states, that they have visitor centers for the entire state. But the majority of the time, communities only have 1 major visitor center that they can direct everybody to gain the same information.
Maybe we need to relook at that, because this is located on an interstate, and the one that we have is not. It's inside a city, so I don't know how people would even find it when they're driving. But this is of concern to me, because we didn't have any problem with the hotel motel tax until, I guess, about 4 years ago, and it's just continued to be some point of contention, and I don't understand. We need to have some cultural things in our city. And museums are not for profit. They are for the citizens and for tourists and for culture. They're for people to come and to learn. And I'd like to hear, I see that the International Museum is here. We had someone intent on cutting it off, I think, before it ever started. So.
Point of order.
No, there's no point of order. You did.
Point of order.
No,
you
sir.
can't assign. You're impugning my integrity.
I didn't even
Point
say
of
anything
order.
about you. I said in briefing section, you didn't
Point
want
of
to even
order.
talk
Point
about
of
it.
order.
Mr. Harvey, I would prefer that Ms. Jamison be permitted to finish her comments.
Yes, in briefing session, this is the only one that was requested to be taken off of, the rest of them, they wanted to just vote for them as a block and take this one off. So I'm not really understanding, you know, where all the contention comes from. And I had really intended to suggest that we have a committee to look into it, to see what is the problem here. I'm curious, has the International Museum received all the funding that we gave them last year?
They received all the funding that they qualified for.
That wasn't my question. Did they receive all the funding that the council voted to give them last year?
For FY last year, we would have to look. I would have to review that to see if they received all their dollars.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear from them. They're sitting in the audience. I would like to hear if they received their funding.
Representative from the applicant, anybody wish to speak? Please state your name and address.
Mary Faye Cam, 1207 Rock Springs Road, Duncanville. Mayor and City Council, I believe there is a bit of a misunderstanding. We are not a tourist center. We are an information center, and we promote ourselves as that so that the people that are coming up and down the highways or what have you can stop, pick up brochures for the entire area, and pick up things that are specific to the city. We try to keep all the brochures that businesses or what have you, and if there's discounts or what have you, some of the people that are passing through can pick that up. But that we only bill ourselves as an information center.
Well, I'm wondering, Ms. Jameson asked a specific question. Do you have an answer to her question?
And the question was whether we had received all the money that had been allotted to us. We have not. We are presently, you approved $13,000 for air conditioning update. We originally spent $9,958, I believe, and that was for the major parts of the air conditioning, and that happened in late September of 18. So we didn't have much use of the air conditioning by that time. When we started in the spring, we found that we had additional problems, and we called the company that had done the first, and they did 2 submissions in trying to get it totally up to par. One of them was for $800 plus, and the other one was for $1,033. We have been reimbursed for the $800 invoice, but out of the $1,033, we only received $206.
But what council approved you have received?
No.
No.
There is money in that account, but we have not received it, although we have submitted invoices.
Okay. Any further comments?
I really think that we need to have some sort of committee look into this and figure out what's going on. For those in the audience that don't know, hotel motel taxes are the taxes that hotels and motels take in. And it's a special fund. And it's to promote tourism and heads and beds. And so this is a fund that, you know, taxpayers, except for people that are staying in hotels and motels, that's where the fund is coming from. It's not from your homes or anything else.
The fact remains, what the point of discussion is a $15,000 removal from the amount requested of $40,000.
Right. I just wanted to clarify.
And your comments in terms of having this looked at, you know, whether we need more than one visitor center is well taken. However, council has previously approved only one official visitor center for the city of Duncanville. In terms of looking at whether we need a second one, that can be an item for staff and council to look at a later date. What we need to focus on is the motion that we have at hand, and that is to remove $15,000 from the $40,000 amount requested. There is that motion. We have a second to that. And I believe at this point we need to take a vote on that particular motion, having heard
No discussion?
comments.
No discussion?
We've
Before
had
we take a vote.
discussion.
No, he wants to talk. Mark wants to talk.
Oh, you,
He
go
does.
ahead. I don't understand, I mean, it's a small amount for a worthy organization. I don't understand why we're taking away. I mean, I'm asking questions. This is something I don't know. Is there something, I mean, they obviously need that amount or they wouldn't be, I'm guessing they wouldn't be asking. From what I know, I don't know enough. So I don't understand why we're trying to take such a small amount away from them, which could mean a lot to them. Maybe means the survival. Is there something I don't know?
Mr. Cooks?
I just have a question, Ms. Cam. How are you doing? Would you share, you mentioned this is not considered a visitor center, but an information center. Is that what you said?
Yes, we're an information center for tourists, and that is on the sign that you provided for us. That's what we put on our website for people that need information about Duncanville in particular, or for the area around. They can stop. We have brochures.
But on your application, did you not put this line item as money for a visitor center? That's all we can go on. In terms of
Right,
other interpretation, your application with $15,000 was for a visitor center, not for an information center. That's all we as council can go on, is what you've documented.
I believe I put the Visitors Information Center on the application, sir. Let me first say to you all, it's my intention to retire from the museum at the end of the year. And with me tonight is the chairman of the Board of Trustees, and he will be filling in on a lot of these things. And so I asked him to come tonight so you would know who will be standing in that place as we move forward. And
Would you mind
truly my
introducing him to
heart
us,
is
please?
for the enrichment of our city. I've lived here 39 years. The first person that came to my door when the movers were there was Twyla Bell Gaunt, and good Lord, I can't think of her name. They've moved out of the city now. That her husband was a dentist, but nonetheless, they came with an application to join the Duncanville Arts Association, and they said that they needed professional people to support our city. And I certainly intended to do that as a new resident, and we immediately joined, and it has been my family's goal, and certainly when I came retiring from the congressional office, my personal goal to see the city of Duncanville to be a city that welcomed people and offered enrichment.
Thank you for that. Would you introduce the chairman of the board,
Yes,
please?
our chairman of the Board of Trustees is Tim Perry. He's a videographer professionally, and he's brought a great deal of efforts and recognition to our museum. And did you want to say something, Tim?
Yes, thank you.
I know this is a little formal, but you need to state your name and address.
Okay,
please.
my name is Tim Perry, and I live at 702 Kiwi Place in Duncanville. All right, thank you. I'm not sure how to, we were going to maybe make a little presentation, but it's fine. I'm honored to be in front of you all, and we really appreciate the fact that that the museum is in Duncanville, that it brings a better quality of life to the city. I'm not sure, perhaps it's semantics on the on that particular line item about serve as a visitor center. We have information, and we cross-pollinate with tourism in the city. So we support whatever else is going on in the community, and we offer information as a part of that. And yes, we are open 5 days a week and with people there. So I think it's semantics.
5 days a week versus
7 days a week.
Thank you.
Right at this time. Yeah, we intend to, with not a lot of the percentage of what a nonprofit operates on comes from donations or grants specifically. A lot of it comes from memberships, depends on the organization. We do memberships and fundraising for monies, and the monies that the city offers us is very important to help in the events that we offer to the community, and to keep the doors open, to help keep the air conditioning going, things like that. So I'm not anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I still have a mic open, have a question for Jessica, and that is the difference on the information center and visitor center. What have you seen in the past with that? The difference of the two, are they the same, or just a play of different words?
Well, from a state statute, it would have to be considered a visitor center to be able to qualify for funding. However, one thing that if council wanted to consider that they could do is if they weren't interested in reducing the amount of money, one option after working with Mary Fay for a number of years, their production costs are much higher typically. That's where they spend a lot of their money, is in production and in advertising. Those are really the two major components that you all spend your money in. So that might be an option for council to consider, possibly instead of the information center, since that really, it needs to be a visitor center to qualify for the state statute. But that might be an option for council to consider, would be to put that money in another place that would work for her, that she could better utilize those funds.
And if I recall, we did that last year as well, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I think actually we've done it the last 2 years.
Okay. So that's, I mean, after this motion is completed, I want to come back and talk about that again. I'll make a motion with that, depends on where it goes.
Well, no, you can't, we have a motion on the table.
Once the motion is finished.
Okay, Attorney, we're going to vote on the one that...
Point of order, she's already spoken twice.
I'm
My light
asking
is
the
on, I'd like to be
attorney
able to
for a
speak.
question.
Mr. Harvey does have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I will say that there is access to the Visitor Center there at the Chamber 24/7, 365. And so I would not like anybody to walk away from this discussion thinking that there are times when our official visitor center is not accessible.
Mr. Perry, you mentioned that we may be into a discussion on semantics. I don't believe so. It may appear that way, but in terms of what we have before us as a council and what's put before us in terms of your application in black and white, that's all we can go on. We cannot misinterpret or try to interpret what's there. We can only go by exactly what's stated. And what's stated on the application is as a visitor center. Now, there's been some discussion about, can we create a second one? That's a topic for a different time. I just wanted to make that clear to you, Mr. Perry, so that you understand where we have to come from in terms of examining the paperwork and the application and the documents before us. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Jameson.
Yes, I'd like to ask the attorney,
Yes, ma'am.
we're going to vote on
What you're voting on right now is the amendment. So if it passes, then you have to take another vote on the amended motion. If it fails, then you go back to your original motion.
So the motion before us is to remove $15,000 as a line item, which is indicated to serve as a visitor center, to remove that from the amount requested of $40,000. All in favor of removing $15,000 from the amount requested, please vote.
Hold on, I want a question. I mean, we don't take the first motion first?
No.
No, it's
No,
the amended motion
takes
takes
priority.
precedence. So the motion to amend takes precedence, so it needs to be voted on first. If it passes, then you have the motion to approve the grant in the amount of $25,000. If it fails, the original motion to approve the grant for $40,000 before the council.
So if we want the original motion to approve, we need to vote against this
amendment.
first one, vote against it, and then come back and vote for the other one. So we need to
Yes, sir.
vote against.
That'd be correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Please vote. The motion to remove $15,000 from the $40,000 amount requested is approved. We now have a motion to, let's see, We have now changed the amount requested to $40,000, from $40,000 to $25,000. Now, if there's a motion to approve a $25,000 grant for the Museum of International Cultures.
I do have another question, and so now that it's approved for $25,000, I want to go back to Jessica's original comment, based upon what we've did in the past.
Yes, sir.
And I know I've talked about this back and forth, and so would you share again, and then attorney, would you help me? Am I able to make a motion if that's what Jessica's stating here, to use that $15,000 as another way versus the visitor center? So, Jessica, how we did this in the past again? For the last 2 years, we've set a precedence.
Mm-hmm. And actually what you've done is you have taken the money from the visitor center line item for the most part, and you've put it in promotion. The last couple years, that's typically how it's been. I think that was last year. 2 years ago, I think that you asked the applicant what they preferred, and they commented on that, and that's where you stuck that money at that point, was in that line item.
Okay, so we've set in my opinion, we've set a precedence of declining each time a visitor center,
yes, sir,
but reallocating it back to another line item. And so, yes, City Attorney, I'm asking at this point if I can make an amendment to
No, we need to go back to the original motion. We need to go back to the original motion. And when the original motion has now been changed because the amount requested is now the amount of the grant is now set at $25,000.
Yes,
so what we need.
But I'm asking for attorney information at this point, Mayor.
You can make another motion to amend the motion as it sits now. The current motion is on the floor is to approve a grant to the International Culture, or the Museum of International Cultures, in the amount of $25,000. You can state a amendment to increase that
any line
by
item.
$15,000 to the third line item, which is advertising, solicitations, and promotions.
I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion. Go ahead.
Member Cooks?
Yes.
So you guys got ahead of me a little bit. You might think about asking the applicant what they feel like they can utilize those funds for a little bit more, since those are in different categories, because for promotion of the arts, just for council's knowledge, that is production costs. So she has typically higher production costs. That's to put on her events that generate tourism, overnight tourism. She typically has more receipts for that category. And so if council wishes, maybe they could ask the applicant if that would be okay, which one would be better. Because one thing that we want to avoid her having to come back and us going through this process again, because she needed more in promotions, which is production, than advertising, if that would be okay with you.
So what you'd be asking for is
understand.
putting the $15,000 on the $7,000 line.
Yeah, I still like
At
to.
$7,000, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Ms. Cam.
I'm sorry.
I'm listening.
Do you have any input in terms of?
Well, no, I was just pointing out that on the $15,000, it includes promotional programs to attract tourists and convention visitors. The $7,000 was to enhance tourism. Most of our things, while we hope that there are other things going on in the city that will keep people there, the hours of the museum are from 10 to 4. And we just had something turned back to us because it was an event that was in the middle of the day. Well, the middle of the day generally is when we're open. We do have events on the weekend, of course, but both of these areas are very important to us. The advertising and solicitation and what have you, we spend a great deal of time and money, and certainly promoting the arts, that's what we're about. We are a humanities museum that everything that we do at the museum, both our volunteers and staff, is directed at having the promotion of arts and cultures in Duncanville, Texas.
Mr. Chair, if I can address you for a second. If you've noticed over the last few years, This item has came back to this council in many ways, asking for a visitor center, and each and every time we go through this step. And so I'm asking you, when you guys look and making your decisions, that you take that in consideration, where we cannot keep going back and forth on these visitor centers, because as you can tell, it comes across to the council where it's become a very deep discussion, and when it comes to that, we get into this. So you're just asking about semantics, that's part of it. So if you guys would work with your board to perhaps not put us in that spot.
Yes, thank you. I apologize for that, and right, as we move forward, the board will take that under advisement and be sure that our line items are for the appropriate categories and really describe what we need and why.
Thank you, because we really are here to help, but we have to, as the mayor mentioned, we have to stay with what you requested. Thank you.
So, Mr. Cooks, would you like to
state
your motion, but to allocate it to a different line based on what the comments we've received from,
the
applicant?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to allocate it to the line that Mrs. Camp indicated for the records.
So that would be the $7,000 line item that we see?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and articulate your motion for you, make sure we're understanding. Okay, so Mr. Cooks is making a motion that that $15,000 be added to the line item promotion of the arts that directly enhance tourism and the hotel and convention industry, which would make that line item $22,000. Do I have that motion?
Yes.
Did I say it correctly? Okay.
You did.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. And we have had substantial discussion. Please vote on this particular motion. That motion has passed.
Thank you.
So what we now have is the total amount requested is back up to $40,000, and the line item promotion of the arts, et cetera, which was at $7,000, is now at $22,000. I believe this completes this particular item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You have to vote on the $40,000 grant.
Okay. Chair will accept a motion for a total amount now of $40,000 on this particular, for Museum of International Cultures. Is there a motion?
There is a motion now, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Just amended it. You've already got a motion because you've amended it.
All right.
So you have an amended motion for $40,000 for the reallocation.
Please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item 5E. Consider a resolution approving an offer of a hotel occupancy tax grant for the fiscal year 19-20 budget in the amount of $45,000 to the Great American Shootout to directly enhance and promote tourism and the hotel industry, conditional upon approval in the fiscal year 19-20 budget. Ms. James.
Mayor, before she begins, I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion is approved. Item 5F, consider resolution approving an offer of a hotel occupancy tax grant for the fiscal year 19-20 budget and the amount of $33,445 to the Duncanville Chamber of Commerce for property maintenance and computer upgrades while serving as the Duncanville Official Visitor Center, conditional upon approval in the fiscal year 19-20 budget.
Mayor, before she begins, I want to move for approval.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to hear what Jessica was trying to get something in, so we'll
Just really quick underneath the wire. I'm sorry. Thank you, Council, Mayor and council members. One thing that I would just really quickly like to point out so that council or the audience isn't caught off guard is that the Chamber of Commerce will also be requesting an additional amount to serve as the official visitor center, and that request will be brought back to you at a future council meeting. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Mr. Cooks?
Yes, and I guess for the audience, I know not just the audience here, but those that will view this video later and want to know why we are making these approvals so quickly and not hearing presentations. And that's simply because these are ones that we, years over years, have already been approving, and nothing has really changed. So we would ask if you do have questions of what we're approving tonight, that you as a citizen would go back and look at it as well. But we're approving it based upon what we've did for how many years for this, and it's been very successful over those years.
Yes, sir, and also you reviewed this information during our budget workshop at 2 different times as well.
Okay.
Yes,
so
sir.
thank you. I just want the audience to know that more than just the audience here, those that's listening for future opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve and a second to approve item 5F for a hotel occupancy grant to the Duncanville Official Visitor Center. Please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item 5G, consider resolution approving an offer of a hotel occupancy tax grant for the fiscal year 19-20 budget in the amount of $42,000 to the Duncanville New and Lions Club 69th Annual Sandra Meadows Classic to directly enhance and promote tourism and the hotel industry, conditional upon approval in the fiscal year 19-20 budget.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. You caught me off guard. Okay, as you know.
I'm sorry. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion we approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Would you like to add anything?
No, sir.
Please vote. Thank you. Item 5H, consider a resolution approving a facility use agreement with alcohol at the Duncanville Fieldhouse for the Duncanville Chamber of Commerce's Fun After 5 event on September 19th, 2019. Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Bart Stevenson, Director of Parks and Recreation. I'll just be making a few brief comments, and I'll invite Steve Martin up to make any comments he wishes to choose at this time. So the Chamber of Commerce has planning a Fun After 5 event. It's one of the regular events that they do throughout the city, throughout the year. The event will be hosted by the Fieldhouse on September 19th. The Fieldhouse will be a co-sponsor of the event in that we are providing the upstairs space rental for no cost, and we're providing food and drinks as well, non-alcoholic drinks. This event typically does have alcohol involved, and they have Chamber has requested to serve alcohol at this event, beer and wine only. They'll be utilizing a TAB server and providing a uniformed Duncanville police officer. About the policy approved by the council back in 2017, alcohol is allowed at the field house as well as the senior center, and typically these would not come before the council. However, since the policy is a little bit unclear about events that are hosted or sponsored or co-sponsored by the city, we thought it best to bring it for you tonight for your consideration. So with that, I'll invite Steve Martin up to make any comments.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion we approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second, and Mr. Martin has sat back down.
I was just going to make a comment.
If you're going to speak, you're going to need to come here.
I'll come up and say who I am wherever it knows.
Please state your name and address.
Steve Martin, 1600 South Main, number 226, Duncanville. I just want to iterate that one of the reasons we're doing this in conjunction with the Fieldhouse, last year when they promoted it and they did a remodel, we wanted to show and showcase the event and the place, and we did want to be able to allow beer and wine. The city will not have to purchase it. I have an additional co-sponsor that will purchase the alcohol, pay for the permit and all, whatever. So there'll be no cost of alcohol to the city. But we wanted to be able to show people that businesses can go in there on a private business and host beer and wine for an event.
Thank you. Okay, we have Ms. Jameson.
Steve.
Mr. Martin.
I love this walk. Yes. Do what?
Is everybody in the city invited?
We put it out on our constant contact email blast. It's open to anybody that wants to come. We'd welcome all the council to be there. Last year it was great food and it was a good turnout. And I think this will enhance it. And like I say, we have a sponsor to do it. So crazy as it may seem, folks, beer and wine does bring out a little bigger crowd. It's
Who's your
after
sponsor?
hours.
Who's your sponsor?
Republic Services. Robin Moda is my chairman of the board for next year, 2020, and she agreed to do this.
Any further discussion? We have a motion to approve on the floor. Motion is approved and seconded. Please vote. Thank you. Item 5I. Consider appointments to various boards and commissions, including Board of Adjustment, City Planning and Zoning Commission, Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation Board, DCEDC, Duncanville Neighborhood Vitality Commission, Duncanville Senior Advocacy Commission, Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board, Library Advisory Board, Multicultural Social Engagement Partnership, Park and Recreation Advisory Board, Sign Control Board, Sister City Commission, TIF, the Tax Increment Financing Reinvestment Zone Number 1, and the Tri-Cities Animal Control Board. At this time, I will read the individuals that the council has considered for appointment to our boards and commissions. I will read the commission or the board, I will read the name, and I will read the term. City Planning and Zoning Commission, Elias Rodriguez, August 2021 term. George Turner, August 2021 term. Richard Shaw, August 2021 term. That concludes City Planning and Zoning Commission. Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation Board, H. Dalv Galbraith, August 2021 term. Chan Williams, August 2021 term. Michael Grace, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments to the Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation Board. Duncanville Neighborhood Vitality Commission, Jeff Burton, term August 2021. Annika Just, August 2021 term. Walter J. Rim, August 2021 term. Rollo Thompson, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments to the Duncanville Neighborhood Vitality Commission. Appointments to the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board. Alice Arnold for an unexpired term to term August 2020. Lee Burton, August 2021 term. Marianne Taylor, August 2021 term. Charlotte Winters, August 2021 term. Liz Smith, August 2021 term. Ignacio Cruz, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments to the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board. Library Advisory Board, Quay Roberts, August 2021 term. Michael Kreitzberg, August 2021 term. Noella Wavers, August 2021 term. Jill Gilbert, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments to the Library Advisory Board. Appointments to the Multicultural Social Engagement Partnership. Latrina Barrett, August 2021 term. Michael Dodwell, August 2021 term. Kaylin McLemore, August 2021 term. Kathy Miller-Jeanbert, August 2021 term. Zebulon Williams, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments to the Multi-Social Engagement Partnership. Appointments to the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. Reginald Hurd, August 2021 term. Don Johnson, August 2021 term. Leo Bell Jr., August 2021 term. Pamela Rogers, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments to the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. Sign Control Board, Amy Durant, August 2021 term. Gerald Hill, August 2021 term. Kim Malone, August 2021 term. Stephanie Rutherford, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments to the Sign Control Board. Appointments to the TIF, the Tax Increment Financing Reinvestment Zone Number 1. Kenneth Embry, August 2021 term. Daniel Flores, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments to the TIF. Tri-City Animal Board, Laura Bowers, August 2021 term. Yarahi Lopez for an unexpired term, August 2020 term. That concludes the appointments to the Tri-Cities Animal Board. Appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Howard Fields, August 2021 term. Lavon Washington, August 2021 term. Terry Popham, August 2021 term. Charles Smith is alternate number 1, August 2021 term. Bobby Lydia, alternate number 2, August 2021 term. That concludes the appointments for boards and commissions. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Please vote. Thank you very much. Item 5J, there was take any necessary action as a result of the executive session. There is no action to be taken as a result of executive session. Moving on to item number 6, receive the Parks and Recreation Quarterly Report. Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, we're just finishing up the summer season, so the Parks and Recreation Department has been very busy in many things, and we're going to share a lot of that with you here tonight. First, we'll talk with our personnel changes. We only have one, in that we've promoted our senior center manager, Noel Garcia, to the interim recreation superintendent. Our immediate focus at the recreation center with Mr. Garcia was addressing customer service, cleanliness, professionalism, as well as program growth, and I will say that he's doing a commendable job at all of these areas, and he's been a great asset to our team.
If I might interject before you go on, I've
Yes,
had the opportunity and the privilege to interface a significant amount of time with Mr. Garcia. He is a credit to the city, to himself, and to his past credentials and the job that he's doing. He's a superb addition to our staff.
Absolutely concur. Right now, he's overseeing both areas, and then we are going through the hiring process for the permanent position. And so once that decision is made, then we'll address the senior center, should he be selected as the new recreation superintendent.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. We've had 2 work plan projects completed with the assistance and the collaboration with Public Works, as well as our Economic Development Department and the Duncanville Design Studio. We've completed all but one of the traffic control box art around the city. Timothy Hamilton was our point person from our department on this project and did a fantastic job. All of the folks on the committee should be commended. I think it looks great and is an enhancement to our community. As far as our 2018 bond project, we knew this would be first right out of the box, and we did finish the Rotary Park parking lot, and that is getting used. I've seen it personally.
I know on that project, did we use the sign that says bond money at work?
We did not, because it was so fast. We did not use it, but however, that is planned for all of our future projects.
All right, thank you.
We've had 2 major events within the last 3 months. Our first being the Memorial Day event, celebrating Memorial Day. This was the 50th anniversary of the Memorial Park Monument, so we did hand out the challenge coins, and that was a big success. If anyone did not get one, I do have a couple left in my office, so please come see me. But Colonel Ronald Munden was our speaker, and that was a great feather in our cap because he was involved with the first unveiling of the monument back 50 years ago. So it was great to bring him back to Duncanville, and he was a fantastic speaker. Also had our Independence Day celebration. We did, again, had another fantastic super event. The fireworks were amazing. We had great comments from the community. We did have approximately 9,000 folks in attendance. This was our first year to actually use counters at the gate, so we have a really good concrete number to work with in the future. But it really was a nice event. Now I'll address some of the upcoming events. As you know, September is Hispanic Heritage Month, and we do have 2 concerts to celebrate that with Mango Punch and Jack Mason. We have our Boo Bash, which will be a joint event with the library. It has grown in size, so we are moving that event to the Field House this year on Friday, October 25th, starting at 6:30. And then I don't know if we'll be back before the Christmas parade, but so I did want to mention our Christmas parade will be Friday, December 6th, and it will be very similar to the past years. So put those on your calendars and look forward to those. Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you very much. Item 6B, receive the Fieldhouse Quarterly Report. Mr. Brassfield.
Good evening, all. I'm Craig Brassfield, General Manager, Duncanville Fieldhouse. Mayor, Kevin, Council. We're here tonight to deliver the third quarter report for the Fieldhouse, so we'll get right to it. As you can see, revenues for the third quarter came in at $467,303, which is $39,000 more than last year. So we have an increase there, and what we like to see is in expenditures, $370,425, which is $3,200 less than same time last year. Going month by month, the revenues for April were slightly down, as well as expenses. The driving force for the reason for we're down a little bit in April is our event, the Under Armour Classic Tournament was moved to May this year because it fell on Easter. So it was moved to May, and the good part about that, when you see May, our revenues were up over 60 grand in the month of May, while expenses rose slightly, but as you can see, good ratio there with the revenues quite a bit more than the expense increase. As far as July were slightly down in revenues, but expenses were down.
June.
In that month.
June.
What did I say?
July. It's okay.
Already in the next quarter. But it was a good month, dominated by basketball, as all the months were. And which brings us to the next slide. Our traffic counter counted 20,000 more people coming through the facility in the quarter than last year, so all of our numbers there are up. Sponsorships, there's a list of everybody that we're doing business with and the due dates of their payments. I've had several council members ask us, but we feel confident we're going to collect everything on the board by the end of the fiscal year. New programs for...
well, what's the total?
Total left to collect is $35,000 and change.
Okay, thank you.
New programs, existing programs and new programs. Alex Hamby, one of our marketing assistants, has done a great job adding some new dance events that we have. We have a boxing academy now using the facility. Have a meditation group that comes in and does meditation at the field house. Our summer camp programs and before school and after school programs are one's completed, the other one's going into the very start of the school year, preparing for those. And we have a slide on that. Our summer camp just did a fabulous job this year. We registered 423 kids, which was up over last year, but slightly down the year before. I think our total revenue in summer camp came in at $229,000, and our budget was $208, so we're quite a bit ahead of ourselves there in summer camp. It was just a great summer for us. We're in right now in full swing for the after-school program. We've registered 28, actually 31. We got 3 more today, so we're on the list there. We're at 28. Same time last year, we were at 25, so we're ahead of the curve there, and there's some of our information that lists the criteria and the pricing that we market to the community. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions.
Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 6C, receive the library quarterly report. Mr. Velasquez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me here this evening to give the library quarterly report. We just completed our summer events here at the library. That's a big, busy time for us. So we completed our summer reading club. We started the summer reading club this year with a co-sponsored event with KRA and United Way that we called our Start Smart Summer Kickoff. We had over 700 people in attendance for that event, so we were very proud of that event. We had food trucks, games, various community organizations that were there represented, story times, crafts, some character meet and greets, and we were very happy to have the Friends of the Library and the VFW also sponsored, giving us water for the event as well as feeding our volunteers who assisted on that event for us. These are some of the images from that event that was very popular, and we're hoping to repeat that next year.
Stop by. That was a great event.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we were very happy with that partnership. They approached us, and we thought it'd be a great way to kick off the summer, and it was very successful. Over the course of the Summer Reading Club, we had various events that we've expanded over the years. This year we had Aztec dancers, we had a magic show, we had the Dallas Zoo that came out and brought some of their animals, and that's always very popular. We also had Professor Branius, Miss Maria, who does a story time and a percussion event. So again, these are all very popular. For the Summer Reading Club, our statistics, this year we had 75 events, totaling 3,336 attendees at those specific events, which is 1,000 more than we had last year. So we were very excited about that. We had over 700 participants who completed their reading logs, and 11 local businesses donated to the prize packets for those reading logs. Everybody completed one, got those prize packets. The Friends of the Library donated 4 Kindle Fire tablets as grand prizes, so we had our winners that were drawn, and those were promoted through our social media and city social media. Overall, we had 18 team volunteers who provided 244 hours of support during the summer for all of our events here. And of course, as always, the youth staff worked tirelessly with the support of the entire staff to make all these events possible over the summer. And I'm very proud of that staff for all the hard work that they do. So, unless there's anything else.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. That concludes our agenda for the evening. We are adjourned at 8:54. Thank you.